The Justice Department says it will continue to release more of the Epstein files on a rolling basis, blaming any delays on releasing all of the files on the time-consuming process of obscuring victims' names and other identifying information.
But just the sheer amount of people with insane amounts of money that are attached to them. What a crazy operation they were running. What a crazy thing. To have a bunch of people fly them out to an island that somehow or another you own. Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Joe Rogan recently raised a pointed question that many people have been asking for years. Why does sensitive or uncomfortable information seem to vanish the moment it begins drawing real attention?
People that are in the position to actually know the people's names on the list, those people are probably in trouble.
Yeah.
Because that's a crazy piece of information to have.
Look.
No one's been tried. No one's been brought. No one's been discussed. We know who went there. We know flight logs. No one talks about anything. There's no effort to prosecute. There's no effort to... And then you have Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail for trafficking to...
His remarks came as allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein surged back into the spotlight, fueled by the U.S. Department of Justice's release of thousands of newly disclosed documents connected to Epstein and his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. These materials, which include photographs, testimony summaries, internal government records, and investigative notes, were released under pressure from the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a law designed to force the government to make all remaining unclassified Epstein-related materials public. Yet even with this release, large portions of the documents remain heavily redacted, leading transparency advocates to argue that the public is still only seeing fragments of a much larger and more troubling picture. The situation grew even more suspicious when journalists and independent researchers
included an image of President Trump appears to have been removed from the Justice Department's Epstein Files website shortly after it was published. The image was part of a new batch of files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation published Friday. The file, numbered 468, was missing as of Saturday at 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time, with the site skipping from 467 to 469.
You can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. We're still investigating that photo. The photo will go back up, and the only question is whether there will be redactions on the photo.
Many of the files have redactions, some of which appear to be applied inconsistently. Content is redacted in some instances, but not others. In some cases, whole pages and even whole documents are redacted, as my colleague Jake Tapper points out here.
It's just 100 pages of redaction. That's the transparency we're getting here.
What the Justice Department told Congress in a letter is that it believes it can black out information to protect victims, despite a law that required all files to be released and allowing for defined categories to protect the victims. The Justice Department didn't meet a 30-day congressionally imposed deadline requiring it to release all the documents.
We are complying with the statute. We will continue to comply with the statute. And if by complying with the statute, we don't produce everything on Friday, we produce things next week and the week after, that's still compliance with the statute.
President Trump was headed down here to Palm Beach as these files were released. He's said before that he got to know Epstein as part of the social circle in this wealthy enclave. The Trump administration has lost plenty of credibility when it comes to the handling of these documents, and the missing files and redacted information are only likely to add fuel to public suspicion that the government is hiding information about Epstein. Analysis by CNN also found that Trump's name and appearance were limited, while there appears to be a heavy dose of former President Bill Clinton, which a Clinton spokesperson said amounted to the Trump administration, quote, shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide.
By the way, before we continue, a quick message for anyone out there who dreams of acting or wants to break into the film and TV industry. Our channel is partnered with a real working actor who actively teaches actors around the world, including celebrity clients. He offers global acting classes, one-on-one coaching, on-camera training, and industry-level guidance for anyone serious about leveling up their career. If you want to learn directly from someone booking real roles in film and TV right now, check out the link in the description and visit the website. Whether you're a beginner or already experienced, his training gives you the tools to stand out in today's competitive industry. Alright, back to the story. Observers noted that the DOJ's document index jumped directly from file 467 to 469, confirming that something had been removed. The Department of Justice later acknowledged that a photo had been temporarily taken down, explaining that concerns had arisen regarding the women pictured in the image and whether additional redactions were required. Officials insisted that the removal had nothing to do with President Trump himself.
Big triumph to finally get some documents, and one of the documents we received and were able to pull out very quickly was the confirmation that Maria actually did this report in 1996, just as she's been saying for a very long time. So that's triumphant, but it's also tragic because to have to wait 30 years to have some kind of justice and accountability is truly tragic. I certainly think there's much more to this story than was acknowledged previously. And that's why we're delighted that at least some of the files have been released. Not all of the files, approximately half is what we've been told. But there's many in those files, and I've just been scouring them very quickly myself, that already are in the public domain. They released all the FOIA requests, all the FBI vault that we already knew about. But just to double back 1 minute for what happened with Maria, if I may. What happened with Maria, she reported Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, but she also reported his child pornography. And that is another terrible illegality. And that's something that the government failed to even address in their efforts to prosecute either Epstein or Maxwell, and that is truly tragic.
Still, the sudden disappearance only intensified public skepticism. Beyond missing files, many of the released documents display extensive and, at times, inconsistent redactions. In some cases, names or details are blacked out in one document but appear unredacted in another. Entire pages, and sometimes whole documents, are obscured to the point of being unreadable. As CNN's Jake Tapper pointed out, some releases amount to little more than hundreds of pages of redaction, raising serious questions about how much transparency the public is truly receiving.
Everybody wants to say he was working for the Mossad. He very well could have been. He could have been working for the CIA. He could have been a guy who was on his own, but also working with them, right? Like a guy that they used, but they never fully endorsed.
Like an asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy who could move money around.
Right.
He definitely...
Good at laundering money.
The moving money around stuff was very weird because he had money through no way that anybody could ever explain.
Yeah.
He had an enormous amount of money through no way that nobody could ever explain. Which, you know, if you're state-funded, you're funded by Israel, and Israel's funded by America, and, you know, there's also NGOs and nonprofits, and there's ways to move money around where you can give this guy money.
Yeah.
So he was like... Weinstein, who is an economist, right? Weinstein's a legitimate mathematician.
Eric?
Yeah. So when Eric met him, his first inclination was he was a fraud.
He's a construct.
Yeah, a construct. And did he tell you the whole story about the girl sitting on his lap?
Yep.
So Epstein, while he's meeting with Eric Weinstein for the first time, has a beautiful girl sitting on his lap, and a woman. I shouldn't say girl. He said she was like in her 20s, and she's sitting on his lap, and he's bouncing around. So they're juggling around while
he's asking math questions.
Yeah, talking serious. So he was obviously nerd fishing. He was fishing for nerds, and I think he caught a lot of nerds in that net. There's a lot of those 100%. Guys that wound up going to that island. They probably thought, this is great. We get to party.
Nothing's free.
And they probably felt like they were rock stars because they get to hang out with the intellectual elite on an island with a guy who's just a billionaire philanthropist who's eccentric, who just loves women. He's a professed bachelor. And it all seemed too good to be true.
It's so true.
Because it was.
Yeah.
So I think he was an asset. Whether or not it was for the Mossad strictly, or Israel strictly, or the United States strictly, whether it was a CIA thing, I don't know. But I think it was probably a part of a blackmail compromise.
The Justice Department has argued in letters to Congress that it retains the authority to redact information in order to protect victims, even though the transparency law required the release of all remaining files with only narrowly defined exceptions. Complicating matters further, the DOJ missed a 30-day deadline imposed by Congress to release the full set of documents, later claiming that staggered releases still count as compliance. As these files were being released, President Trump was traveling to Palm Beach, an area where Epstein once moved comfortably among wealthy and influential social circles. Trump has previously acknowledged knowing Epstein in that context. Analysts and commentators have noted that the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein documents, particularly the missing files and extensive redactions, has damaged its credibility on the issue. CNN's analysis suggested that Trump's name appeared relatively sparingly in the documents, while former President Bill Clinton was referenced far more frequently. A spokesperson for Clinton pushed back, accusing the administration of selectively releasing information in a way that shields itself while deflecting scrutiny elsewhere.